Alright gang, it's time for this month's installment of Strange Manga That I Find. If you're new here, then welcome. My name is Ash, and I love talking about various manga that I happen to find while I look through various manga sites. Hope you guys have been doing well, and on that note, let's get started with Bakutoimigiruga ga Fufu ni Ninarumare by Shino. Saku Kanekura was a boy born into a poor household. He studied hard and managed to pass the exam to an excellent high school, but it soon turned out that his parents were in debt. When it was time to pay the debt off, a mysterious gal appeared and offered to pay off their debt. A big burden was almost off Kanekura's head, but the gal made a condition in return which stated that, and then it just cuts off. So it's like, ooh, what did she condition him to do? She wants to get married. It's in the title. It's in the goddamn title. So we got the main character Sora-kun, and he's just a goody-goody two-shoes that reminds me a lot of Iruma from Iruma-kun, if you guys ever read or watched that. And like the two of them have a lot of similarities where like they were both too nice for their own good. They both amassed huge debts because of their deadbeat parents. Both of them had said debts paid off by a Gyaru who fell in love with them after watching them deliver newspapers in the morning. This is basically plagiarism. The Gyaru herself is named Luna Momose, and she has that Gyaru thing of having normal hair aside from like one dyed piece of hair. In this case, she's like an inverse of Mitsumi from Yozakura family. Sorry, I'm too used to calling it Yozakino, which it is. You should probably read that one. Anyways, Mitsumi has blue hair with a silver stripe, and then Luna has like silver hair with a blue stripe. So like, if they combined, they would have a girl with just normal hair. Anyways, Luna just kind of adopts Sora, like just invites him to live with her in her sprawling, humongous house, and she's like, can we get married? And he's like, huh. There's a lot of fan service, but also what do you expect? It's a Gyaru manga. That's like complaining about Monogatari fans at a children's playground. Like, what do you expect? It comes with the territory. Well, at the bare minimum, there's Subaru, who is Sora's childhood friend, who looks scary. You know, he got the piercings and like the delinquent attitude, but he's actually a sweetheart, and he's my favorite character, even though he showed up for like one chapter. Like, what can I say, dude? Gap Moe is the best trope to ever exist. If you don't know what that means, it's basically when a character's appearance contrasts with their personality. In most cases, you have a character that looks tough or scary, but in reality they have a heart of gold, kind of like Josuke from JoJo, or like Knuckle from Hunter x Hunter, for example. Man, sometimes Luna talks in Uwu speak, and it reminds me of Martin from Dress Up Darling. Honestly, a lot of these panels and pages remind me a lot of how Martin looks in Dress Up Darling, which might be intentional. Maybe all these manga are trying to get on like the Gyaru wave. And then you got Sora, who's just kind of like a nothing burger of a character, aside from just, I'm nice, which is fine. I like it when protagonists are nice, but it's very clearly just self-projecting wish fulfillment here. The manga is not trying to be something that it's not, but what it currently is nothing special. I do like how Luna's underwear is drawn, the lace is really detailed and it's rendered nice, so that's cool. There's really nothing to Luna's character aside from how much she loves Sora, and there's nothing to Sora than just, oh, I'm nice, so it's like, maybe they're made for each other. It's fine, it's inoffensive, it's not going to put you on a list if you read it. There's only 7 chapters out right now, it's a really quick read, but it's just kind of carried by how nice the art is. The artist is active on Pixiv, and sometimes he draws children from Fate Grand Order, so if you're into that sort of thing, I recommend calling the number 911 on your phone right now and letting them know. Speaking of predators, the next manga is called Being Targeted by Hyena-Chan by Zugoya. Before I even talk about this manga, I need to talk about the creator, Zugoya. This guy is the front runner of a genre of manga that my friends and I have called hustler manga. Basically, these manga exist to have main characters that are like curvaceous, you know, they got crazy proportions, and to entice you, to make you go, damn, you know, she's fine. So then you keep reading, right? And then you find out that the creator actually has a fan box where if you pay $5, you gain access to art of that character getting railed. All of this guy's manga is like this, and I respect him so much for this. You need to get that bag somehow, and this is one of the ways to do it. It also helps that he has a really appealing art style. Even though he draws the same body every single time, it is okay, I can forgive him. Anyways, back to Hyena Girl, Oh man, I forgot to even read the description for this one. I found out that my long-distance girlfriend had gotten a new, older boyfriend from the city, and while I was in the grip of despair, a girl named Haibara Inako, more affectionately called Hyena-Chan, suddenly appeared before me and confessed, I don't have a boyfriend and I'm free right now. It's just more wish fulfillment for people who always wanted an 8-foot-tall girlfriend that's also into femdom. There are 6 chapters, each chapter is 1 page long, and you can read this in 30 seconds. You can pause the video, go read it, and come back, and you will get the whole experience. Hyena-Chan got really sharp teeth. You know, it kind of reminds me, like, the way the mangaka draws kind of reminds me of, like, Horikoshi, the guy who makes Boku no Hero. I used to erase the teeth from Boku no Hero characters' mouths just to, like, see what they would look like, you know? Unlike the dude's, like, other manga, like I mentioned before, every chapter of this is just 1 page, whereas this other manga would have, like, at very least multiple panels or, like, multiple pages, and pretty much now more than ever, it's just, hey, look at this girl with big boobs. But again, like, what do you expect? Like, look at the thumbnail. Also, she, like, grabs her junk in chapter 4 for some reason. I don't know why. The last chapter of this one is the most fascinating because she has her mouth closed for once. The main character would comment, like, oh, geez, you know, she's acting animalistic. Like, look at her. Genuinely look at her. And I'm being 100% honest again, I want to cover this manga not so much about the content of the manga, but because of the content that the mangaka makes, because all of his manga are just like this. But he has a very unique art style that's instantly recognizable, so it's really not all that bad. If you were to read one of his manga, I'd say read the Crybaby Divorced one. That one's fun, I like the design, the writing is cute, the situations that the main characters get up to is pretty sweet. I also started reading the Blue Skin Convenience Store Worker one. That one's fun, I enjoy the designs of, like, all the monsters that show up in that one. If you like just one of this guy's manga, then you're probably gonna like all of his manga, so might as well just give this one a read alongside everything else he makes. He's not bad at all, he's a really good artist. And he's pretty active on Twitter too, and if you got a couple of bucks, you could send him to his fan box and see that divorced crybaby lady getting railed. Next up, we got Lockup by Saruwatari Tatsuya. Samson Takagi, president of the impoverished indie organization Akatsuki Pro Wrestling Troupe, is terminally ill with cancer. Although his body is in shambles after years of wrestling, he continues to put on a good show, as he believes in turning his life around. The Mandela of men's lives. Life is wrestling. I have never followed wrestling growing up, or even now as an adult, but I want to read this one because the cover art looked insane, and I ended up finding this one really enjoyable from the 4 chapters that are currently translated. Right off the bat, I have to say I'm a big fan of the Scanletter group just having manga for men right at the top. I'm also a big fan of how this manga starts with gap moe. You have, like, this big, buff, muscular dude approach this young little kid and help her find her parents after she got lost at a festival. I'm just a big fan of how everyone looks. Like, the faces are very comfortable, very, like, 80s, 90s manga. It's like a bygone age, but I really like it. The main character, Samson, he's a middle-aged wrestler that owns his own little agency, and he was the guy that rescued a girl earlier, whose name was Mina. Our introduction to him as a wrestler is him crapping himself in the middle of a match. Samson himself is referred to as Tumor Fighter, which is weird, but then again there's actual wrestlers that have names like The Undertaker and John Cena, so maybe Tumor Fighter isn't so insane. Mina likes to hang out with Samson and his crew, attending every fight, so on and so forth, until it turns out she's been hospitalized. Truth is, she's battling liver cancer, and she has to have surgery soon. She's not the only one though, as was mentioned in the description for this manga, Samson himself has terminal prostate cancer. Not only that, but repeated years of wrestling has caused his health to deteriorate further and further. Accompany that with debt collectors hounding after him and him trying to solve all the issues that his wrestlers are facing, and you have yourself a man with the weight of the world on his shoulders. But despite everything, he continues to press on and pray every day, believing that the gods will smile upon him and his little troupe. It had such a fantastic and engaging first chapter that hooked me right away. Samson's pancreatic cancer was an early diagnosis and he could have had it treated, but in like a selfish act, he denied treatment. If he went on chemotherapy, his strength would diminish. If he was away from wrestling for too long, his crew would go under. And hormone therapy would only mess with his quote-unquote fighting spirit, so he refused that as well. It's really prideful and arrogant, but there's also something really compelling about having a character like that be your protagonist. His stubbornness to change borders on selfishness, but I don't think he's a bad person, and I find it really endearing. His extreme optimism reminds me of Ichiban from Yakuza 7 in a good way. There's only been 4 chapters translated so far, but the publication of the manga is finished, so hopefully we get this one finished soon too. Chapters 2, 3, and 4 delve deeper into the other people that Samson worked with, goes into their backstories and how Samson has affected them. It's really sweet because it shows that Samson really looks after his troop like his own family, and they all consider him family too. I like how his opponents know of Samson's condition, but he's still pushing them. He's like, no, you gotta do your best, don't worry about me. It's pride, it's ego, it's all that psychological stuff that I don't want to bore you with, but it's interesting and it's very endearing, and I really hope he doesn't die by the end of this manga, because that won't be fun. It's a uniquely presented and endearing manga that I think has a lot of soul and is definitely worth checking out. And finally, we have I'm Dating a Monster Who Devoured the Woman I Loved and Replaced Her by Nekozukin. Yeah, like, what can I even say here? Each chapter of this is a single page, but the art is really nice, and it's super sketchy, but appealing. As you can probably guess from the title, the main draw is that the main character, who is you're the main character, fell in love with a girl, the girl didn't care about the main character, the girl gets eaten by an eldritch being who ends up replacing her. This is basically the plot of Bloodborne. I've also never watched Parasite, but I assume that's what the plot is too. The entire manga is in black and white, with the only colors being the red eyes of the monster girl, but it works out, it makes it really appealing and stand out. There's like 1 or 2 instances of a background in this manga, and chapter 3 basically has like a photograph with a high contrast filter, but I mean it worked in Goodnight Pun Pun, so I mean it's fine. It's an amateur manga, it's not being published in like a magazine, so you don't gotta worry about that sort of thing. There's a pretty cool chapter where she wants to diddle the main character to see if the baby will be normal or a demon spawn, which is also the plot of The Fly, like that movie from the 80s with Jeff Goldblum. Go watch that if you haven't, it's really good. Now look, I know what you're saying. You would think that the main character would have renovations about diddling what's essentially the corpse of the girl he had a crush on. But no, he ends up diddling her like 8 times. And she's like, wow, you really did it 8 times. Ah, that's so crazy. You want to do it more? And you, the main character, you don't say anything because you can't talk to her. She tries to act like those lame-ass like, those mommy VTubers you see on YouTube ASMR channels. And it's just like, bro, just like turn into an eldritch horror. Don't tell me to drink water. Like, I don't want to see that. I don't know, it's just me, man. Like, if this manga leaned more so towards the horror and psychological aspects, then I think I would have rocked with it more. But then again, I could just be reading the summer that Hikaru died, so, whatever. There's a chapter with a missing poster ad, and the monster girl's like, oh yeah, I ate her because humans are food to me, but not you, you're special. I'm like, aw, thank you. Anyways, for some reason, the monster girl really likes us, which I guess is like the 4th wish fulfillment manga, because, okay, look, first manga I talk about is a Gyaru paying off all your debts and living with you. Second manga was a tall, big booby hyena woman that takes care of you and is also like 8 feet tall. Third one is about wrestling, which is every man's dream. And then this one is about having a demon girl confess her love to you. So like all of these manga that I talk about today are just a wish fulfillment. She even suggests that like you go on a vacation with her to quote unquote spread her feeding grounds. Like, alright bro, I see where you're getting at. There's a chapter where they're watching all sorts of movies that fit into the body snatchers category, like The Thing, They Live, Invasions of the Body Snatchers, and hey look, they got Parasite too. The last chapter that I was able to find was her going, hey, you know what, hanging out with humans is fine actually, and then the manga just ends. The author for this one retweets some strange things on Twitter, but I think they might be continuing this manga over on Pixiv. I can't read Japanese, so I'm uncertain. But for what it's worth, it is an interesting concept. It's a very quick read, kind of like a lot of manga I talked about today. Like, you could get this one done in 2 minutes, and I think the concept could be a lot more interesting if it was fleshed out and given enough time. I hope the manga could continue this one, because it's an interesting concept and I would love to read more of it. But on that note, I think that will do it for this month's Strange Manga I Find video. I apologize if the manga I talked about this month weren't as meaty as the manga I typically talk about, with a lot of them having chapters that are just like 1 or 2 pages, but I wanted to talk about these ones because they were all kind of interesting in their own ways. I hope you guys give them a read, or at least look at them, and let me know what you guys have been reading in the comments. This has been Ash, I love you all, and as always, thank you for watching. Let me go read my patrons real quick. Thank you to Fresh Burek, Big Boo Goddamn, Polaroid Jack, Sarah Lolita, Borpulus Vunny, Real Century, Loose, Vento, Sea Crowns, Kiwi Kiwi, V, Andrew, Braystar, Silgon, Amateramasu, Logan, Sianaru, and Jifa. Thank you guys as always for your support. I love you all, and I hope you guys look forward to my next video, which may or may not be about strange manga that I find. I'll see you guys later.